Michael, just for some of the people that haven't done this before, it's a good idea to turn mics on mute if you're not talking, because otherwise you get all the background noise as well from your respective homes.
Thanks for the advice, Brendan. Welcome, Dobbo.
I was at Brendan, sorry I'm late for change. I was just went for a run.
Walk your dog.
Right, thanks for joining us for this historic moment, the first DHL Stormers digital press conference. We'll see how this goes, and hopefully we can make it a more regular occurrence. I think we all know Dobbo. We got to know his bookshelf fairly well. So yeah, if we can start the questions, let's try and make this as orderly as possible and not all shout at once. Let's go for it.
Perhaps, Dobbo, I can start just in terms of the injury situation. How are some of the guys looking, and if you had to restart the competition, say in 3 or 4 weeks' time, who are some of the guys that could be back by then?
I think yeah, we're all progressing well. I think what 3 or 4 weeks' time, let's say a month. Let's say what's that? What's that? In April. Yeah, beginning of May. Only BCA will be back. By the end of May, it's pretty much the whole lot. I think Kitsi and Herschel might be a week or two after that. So the RTPs, Peter Steff, Bongi, all early June. Sia back next time we play, definitely. And then Kitsi and Herschel, I got the report yesterday, maybe first week July, maybe June. So yeah, in some ways that's good for us.
Realistically, what are the expectations here? I mean, 3 weeks, 4 weeks seems quite optimistic at this stage. It's obviously impossible to know and I guess to plan. But at what point do you get to where you actually need a bit of a little mini preseason to get going again?
I think that what the people are saying is that we need a 3 week notice period. I guess if you run this remote program properly, Lloyd, you could probably get away with 2 weeks, but you can't guarantee the quality of these remote I can't speak to other franchises. So I think the common, when we chatted at SA Rugby a few weeks ago, was 3 weeks. So jeepers, the soonest we could be playing is what, 5 weeks? Again, my calendar's wrong here, but 5 weeks. That's what, that middle of May would be the very earliest. And as you suggest, I think even that's trickier. So we're just living day by day.
Are the guys like frequently tested or anything like that? Or do you just pretty much, if there's anybody picks up a cold, then sort of do something? Or
Jeepers, Steve, did you anticipate all the barbers being closed for lockdown and longer?
I actually accidentally, I fell and cut my head. So I had to actually shave a bit off here. So I thought I'd go for the consistent look.
Sorry, Steve, in my chirp, the essence of the question.
Are the guys being frequently tested for the virus, or will it only be the case if somebody comes up and says he has a cold?
Oh, for the virus as opposed to fitness. Yeah, they got to, if they answer those two of those questions are negative, then they get tested. We screened them all on the day we left last Thursday, and not the formal test, it's screened, which is a difference. And then they've obviously been in isolation since, but they do daily wellness reports, symptom reports, temperature reports for the doc. They've got to answer two of those questions: their symptoms and elevated temperature, or whatever, or they've been in known contact. At the moment, that's all negative. That's done daily, but not formally tested. No.
Is there a lot of self-discipline here for the guys with training at home and so on?
We've tried to remove the self-discipline element as much as you can. I think to give you our overview of our program, I think it's pretty detailed, and so they've got daily fit as an online app, AMS, which put their conditioning results in their work, their sleep, their RPEs, all that stuff goes in daily. They've got to post the videos of their conditioning. There's only, and we tailored individual programs, but we have to bear in mind the environment. A guy like Johanna Toys, obviously, or Peter Steff, obviously on a farm, and somebody can throw a ball to them. It's different to, the only guy who's by himself is Chris Van Zyl. He's the only guy who's working by himself. in terms of, you know, his environment. But so they got the fitness stuff, which is daily reporting. Every day they've each got their own work-ons in terms of their technical skills. And then they've got the drills that each coach is sending out video drills. So let's say Edward van der Merwe today's offloads to the right. He'll get that drill done by a coach. And then he has to send his drill back. So we're trying to take out, they're under enough stress as it is without the self-discipline. And then they've got technical products, that's weekly projects like Huddle, analyzing our game, their games, opposition games, trends in world rugby. And then the fourth thing is a bit of fun. They say they're divided into group, and each group's they're competing each other for post of the day, fitness drill of the day. So we try and take, I think, as I said, they're stressed enough, so they try and take the self-discipline out. Of course, they could rubbish us, but we'll get, you know, there are things like your body weight don't lie, you know, so we're pretty happy with how we're going.
Do you think it's really... Oh, sorry, Brendan, go for it.
No worries. There may be a tendency in these times when you're all alone to overthink things. And I mean, you guys didn't end the last bit of the season the way you wanted to, but is there that tendency to overthink what you could have done and should have done, and if things start to overthink it, what you should do, or do you follow sort of a process, so to speak?
I think it's a great question, but it's exactly what we're going through. You know, if we'd beaten the Sharks on Scarrow, the penalty gone the other way towards the end when we had the lead, it would have been okay. It would have been the great train robbery because we wouldn't have deserved it, but it wouldn't have caused the level of introspection that we've done. You know, whether we're overdoing it that's a fair point. But we've pulled our game apart, and we've got externals, you know, guys at coaching international level to look at our game. We've pulled it right apart. I think we try to keep that away from the players though. But as the coaching staff, we've had we lost the Blues, had a bye, lost to the Sharks, had this hiatus. There's a lot of introspection going on, and I agree with you. Probably time somewhere to draw a line and be more positive.
Dobbo, if you decided you had to reset, would you have time to? If there's only 3 weeks before you start your season again?
Oh yeah, Gav, we know exactly what we need to fix. I mean, I'm not being obvious. You guys have watched our game with analytical minds. They will know that, you know, for 3 out of 4 games, we had 40 Sharks with 37%, and a couple more with 40% territory. You know, and I think people don't understand rugby. It's a kicking game. It is a kicking game, but it's not about Damien Willemse or how far he kicks. It's how we set up, how quickly we set up, when we kick, and we're just way off there. We got beaten badly by that in the Sharks. You know, and I think with rugby, as I say, you know, territory and possession are so correlating so high. Your pack hasn't got energy to scrum and play rugby on their 10-yard. They get nervous. We kick the ball away. The pack gets energy closer into their half. You know, every pack does, and into the 22. Well, our conversion rate's really good. So that's yeah. So when people think kicking game is, we're saying Damien Willemse is not kicking or Leggett's not kicking. It's more coaching, like how we're setting up. We're taking 15 seconds for an exit. You know, it's just crazy. So that's what we're working on now. So I think that we know how to do it. We know what the stats. We know what we need to do. I think the second we get on the training field, that's our domino in terms of, we've got other dominoes like our explosivity and conditioning, but the main one on the field is like kicking out.
Have you done a lot of? I know some coaches who've spent this downtime just watching TV. And when I say watching TV, watching games. And I know some people who have watched every Super Rugby game and worked out the ball. I mean, you could probably get stats on this anyway, but ball and play time and which particular teams are. Have you done any of this, or you got somebody to do it? I mean, Brendan mentioned overthinking, but it's easy to overthink all sorts of things when you're sitting alone at home.
Yeah, and especially when you lost, as you say, you lost your last game. Here it is, Gav. It's every game, and we've got document pages and pages of ruck speed, everything. So we all go, but I think what's important is that we don't pull apart all facets of our game. You know, like we have to have one thing we fix, and to my mind, that is our understanding of territory. Our defense, we conceded these tries and these points in Super Rugby. Okay, our attack has a rhythm, but on the field to attack properly, So that goes back to territory. So, yeah, we are, I promise you, we are pulling it apart, because even despite the injuries, I wouldn't give us, overly high mark for our rhythm and how we played this season.
Because I wanted to mention our double in terms of that attack. When the season started, we all spoke about the World Cup forwards that are there and they can dominate physically and all of that. But perhaps by the 5th game, some of them may have been a bit tired, played most of the games, and it seems like almost all the eggs were in one basket. Do you think you need to add more in terms of having attacking tools?
Yeah, I'll go back to the start. And this was done with SA Rugby when we sat down in early last year, before the World Cup, during Super Rugby. Do we let Peter Sef go to Japan because that's where he was going? Do we let Sia go to France because that's where he was going? Or do we let Kitsev go back to France because that's where he was going? Do we let Frans Maherbe go to Harlequins, which is where he was going? Is that going to help South African rugby and help Stormers rugby? No, it just happened that our sort of stars were based around a pack, mostly in the forward. We couldn't keep Damien de Linde and Eben Etzebeth. So we obviously, if you get those guys, you see how the Springboks play in the World Cup. What we were trying to do was trying to maybe be more attacking in terms of keeping the ball in hand, based around that pack's dominance. The problem is that pack got injured. One thing I do want to correct you about the injuries is nothing to do with overplaying whatsoever. That we've taken these injuries to Prof Noakes, to sports science, to say we've got 6 guys that played in the World Cup final. 5 have injured, all traumatic. 2 in the first game, so that's not an overplay thing. One you saw the tackle of Ricky Riccatelli, you saw Bongi's hamstring went. 2 in the 6th game, no overload, no soft tissue. The only thing the doctors are telling us is they have in common is that they played the World Cup. That does. Having said that, Ashfaq, you are quite right in that. I was saying after game 2, after the Bulls, I'd like to see more rhythm on our attack. But the guys do get energy, and the pack get energy when we're playing in their half of the field. And the pack did bail us out, but that wasn't our plan. And unfortunately, they're injured now. But where we are lucky is that we've got real depth of another generation. What we would never want to go through is a mass clean out here. So a JD Schickerling, a Choki, Jakob Kutsia, these are the guys that we have to bring through now. As regards an over-reliance on the pack, it was not our plan. Our plan was for our pack to create momentum for our steppers. We just never really got going. So that bit I agree with.
Dobbo, coming back to that injuries, when you guys do get back onto the field, there's going to be the element that guys, because they're not conditioned for those hits and stuff like that, there's a chance that they may injure themselves again. Are you getting someone to talk to them, not to think about that sort of thing that can happen?
Yeah, listen, we've got. I think we've got this program we're running now is absolutely superb. We've got mental skills guy in Tom. We've got a psychologist who they've got able to use. We've got nutritionists. We've got everything. But that's what we need the 3-week window for. I don't want to sound, because injuries have been part of our landscape for a long time. But I can't see having this again. 5. The Sharks sit with not 1 injury. We sit with 5 Springboks traumatically injured. When I say trauma, I don't mean traumatically. I mean medical trauma. They weren't, as I say, soft to wear and tear injuries. So our luck can't be that bad again. But you're right. That 3-week period is really, really important. And I think that's why, obviously, people want the lockdown to finish and a game to happen behind closed doors. But I think every franchise would be agreed that wouldn't be fair on the players. We get lots of injuries there.
Robert, do you think this whole thing potentially, assuming we get it under control as a country, could set up a cracker of a Currie Cup in terms of people's passion for rugby, South Africans' passion for rugby? Because there will come a time where everybody, gosh, we've really missed our rugby, and the Currie Cup will give us something really everyone to look forward to.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I've got no empirical knowledge about what's happened, but I think there'd have to be, and we live day by day. There'd have to be some sort of something if we get on the field, let's say in a month or two, something around Super Rugby, just because of the rights and the sponsors and Vodacom. But I think after that, you could play a brilliant Currie Cup. I think the most important thing for rugby is that we use this time to reset, and that's not my role, of way above my pay grade. But it's going to sound really silly, but the obvious thing into rugby is people back in the stadium. Not only just for the revenue, just for, I think at some stage broadcasters are going to get tired of broadcasting. You have Stoke play Huddersfield there. There's people singing and you can't fit a parrot into the stadium. If you see, Suncorp or whatever, our local stadiums with 4,000, at some stage that's going to affect the broadcast as well. So whatever product we come with has to get people in the stadium. I think a Currie Cup, if Springboks are playing, given the absence, could work a lot. Could work well.
How much of a full impact will this have? Seeing that obviously, if you look at the USA, they've now filing for bankruptcy. How bad is the situation, and in your opinion, how much of an impact will it have?
Okay, listen, the first thing, as regards Western Province and the Storm, is I think our leadership, and then it's not a popular narrative, have done incredibly well. The guys are feeling safe. There's no job security issues. We've been communicated well with, and they've done really well to make us as resilient as possible. I'm not saying that to be, it really, if you speak to one of our players now, Nani, they'd say they're not worried about. I think if this goes on for a very long time, obviously one expects, it's happening all over the world, some form of adjustment or haircut. But we're in touch with my players. My players had a conference call with our players yesterday. My players being the organisation with our players. So I think from our local point of view, guys are feeling good in terms of that element, this job security, because I think to be on your own and your job insecure would be very challenging. So I think our leadership's done well there. Where I do think this could, in a funny way, and I really don't want to be like a vulture picking at the carcass, is that you're going to see obviously less options overseas, and that would help our local market correct. So if a player comes to you with 4 million offer from Northampton, that I'm not sure it offers there anymore, and we don't have to get into those wars. I think you're going to see some guys returning because society is going to be different. We're going to, whatever the reverse of globalization is, and there's going to be increased supply in the local market, which means obviously that's got an impact on prices. So I think it could help our local domestic rugby economies adjust a bit if once we're through this hiccup. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and a guy like Jamie Roberts, is he now lost to the Stormers? Do you think he'll still come back? The view on Jamie is
Rickus Pretorius or Cobblesby, so they went to Uppington. Jamie's family's in London. He went to London. They were allowed to go home to do this period, which is natural and right. His intention is to come back after 3 weeks, and he said, "Goodbye, chaps. I'll see you in 3 weeks." Whether that's whether that comes or whether there's a different quarantine or a ban, that could affect it long term. At the moment, the plan is he's coming back.
Dobber, when you were talking about getting crowds into stadiums and things just now, it made me think of this, because you're probably not going to be playing in front of a crowd for a while, even if you are
That's
playing.
true. That's
there's an extra
Yeah.
Sorry, there's an extra emotional aspect for you guys, because this is one hell of a year for it to happen to you, given it's your last year at Newlands. Is there sort of like that emotional thing now that you sort of every week that goes by, you've got less of a window to say goodbye? I know there's nothing you can do about it and you can't control it, but it must sort of add to your anxiousness in a way. The other unions will come back next year and play again in the same stadium, but it's actually ruining your sort of big farewell shindig, if you like.
Yeah, it is, Gav. It is a source of anxiety for us because, with the Currie Cup format as it was published, which saw us play, I'll probably get this wrong, but certainly Sharks, Griquas, Cheetahs at home. In that Currie Cup format, it's not, we see what the Currie Cup looks like recently. So that's not great ways to say goodbye to Newlands. And we lost 3 home games in a sense. We should have been playing the Waratahs, Rebels the last 2 weeks, and then we stood the Sharks to come, and that's obviously not going to happen in the current structure. So the Newland fizzle thing is a source of concern. There is a game, there is a massive occasion being planned, and God willing that takes part, and that was always meant to be penciled down for October, November. So hopefully that still happens. I think the players are still optimistic we'll play some form of domestic tournament still before then.
Thanks.
W, do you think perhaps things, without being insensitive, but could it possibly be a blessing in disguise, seeing that you lost 5 World Cup Springboks, and during this period, obviously, it gives them time to recover?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd be lying to you if I said it didn't cross my mind. I mean, obviously, as you say, the greater good and the scamper of this disaster make that absolutely irrelevant. But you know, I do know that when we do take the field when we really take the field, we're in better shape. You know, physically. Yeah, we took a knock over those leagues. You know, when you lose 2 captains, when you lose 5 of the 6 guys who played in the World Cup final, you know, it does knock it. There's no question it knocks the team. You know, so. And I think, you know, if we got on a plane to Buenos Aires straight after that Sharks game, we would have been under a bit of pressure. You know, just by the virtue of those injuries. Morale was down. We'd lost the game. I mean, yeah, Jean-Luc wouldn't, even other guys like Jean-Luc, Chris Van Zyl wouldn't have been there. You know, it would have been tough. So it does give us a chance to regroup and fix our game if you're looking for a silver lining. Yeah.
Am I correct in assuming that if the competition does resume, I mean, I know you guys must be getting some kind of feedback from SA Rugby, or I'd hope so anyway. If the competition does resume, you'd be starting from scratch. I mean, that we've agreed that we're not going to continue the competition that had already started, and B, that I'm correct in saying that it's highly unlikely that it will be in anything other than a closed stadium.
I don't know any of that officially. No, I don't know. I mean, you know, one of the things I thought was this is only my thought, is you could take out inter-conference games, excluding the Jaguars that happened already. So, you know, whether we played 4-1-3 or the Sharks had played 3-1-3 or whatever it was, but they never make that competition too short. So I can't see how you don't start from scratch. I think it's tough on a team like the Sharks, have done really well. So, but yeah, and I can't see it not being. I see the Premier League football are pushing for open stadium as soon as, I think, May. Is it, or is it earlier? I can't remember. But
May, yeah.
Is it? Yeah. One of the things I've asked Tom Dawson's club to look at is, you know, the emotion and the approach of playing in an empty stadium. I think could be really disconcerting. So it's one area we might have to work on in the next few weeks. But I think it's important. And I know the guys are working. I know SA Rugby got task teams across. I know it's not being worked on. One of the things I think it's important for the national psyche at this time is that as soon as there's some sort of normality, and if you can, whether get guys in closed stadiums who are isolated before in a safe environment, to be great for the people to have something to look forward to on a Saturday and to analyze for 3 days and write the Stormers off and all that sort of stuff. It'd be good, but that's not. I don't know.
Everybody's innovative in this period. I would just like to know how are you coping? How are you coping as a coach, and what are you doing? You said you came back for a run. Did you really go run around the house?
You and Gavin are the runners. We've got such an intense program going. It's really busy, which is great. You know, it was one thing coaching. We didn't have the luxury after what happened in the last, you know, in that game at Durban, where there were some pleasing aspects to it, to sit back and just go into a holding pattern, you know. And I've said to the players, there is going to be a consolidation of the player market here. You know, there's going to be no room for cruisers or guys who aren't professional. Last year we cut it down with the salary cap and the player squad numbers, and that took a few hundred players off the South African market. And this could have a similar impact. So, you know, it's going to be survival of the fittest time. So it's one thing coaching a team of 45 when you can meet them all together and get on the field all together. It's another thing coaching them via Huddle, which is an app, AMS, I think, management system app, or WhatsApp app, you know. So we actually are very busy, which is good because we need to be, because it's what we do. So, you know, they're very groups. There's a breakdown group or Zoom, and I mean, yeah, we should have all bought shares in Zoom and sanitizer and Netflix. But the guys are working really. This program, I'm thrilled with what we've developed. You know, and the guys are responding well. So we as coaches, we're working pretty hard. I must say, you know, I think the rugby players are quite primal beasts. They train and tuned to play rugby. And as coaches, obviously, that's what we want to do. So I think at some stage, the levels of frustration are going to rise. But at the moment, we're okay.
Albert, just to get into a bit of technical rugby, I know you've done a lot of analysing. Is Damien Willems still a fly-off, or is he a fullback?
Yeah, Damien, I'm not going to. I think what people are seeing with Damien is, so with his own admission, some poor penalty kicks for touch, and that's now equating to a bad game. If you look at his Super Rugby trend report, chatted to this about two guys who coached at international level, what they thought of Damien's game. They think he's pretty solid. I think we made an error is that when he returns counterattacks, that he's often on the ground, and that puts us under pressure after we return a kick. And with the amount of kicking going on in Super Rugby, that's a problem for us. I've spoken to Damien directly. Where does he want to play? He doesn't mind. I've spoken to the national coach, so that's not my role to plot that information. He'll still be in the frame he'll still be in the frame at Fluff when we resume. Not saying every game or the whole game. Yeah. I mean, probably the bottom line is it's open. Yeah, Jean-Luc, lasted 19 minutes, broke 3 river. Yeah, he'll be back probably, but yeah, certainly if Jean-Luc's not there, Damien's definitely a 10.
Okay.
Speaking about giving guys a chance with the guys out, Jamie not here at the moment. Where are you sort of zooming into, like, give fringe guys maybe a run, guys like Edwill, who's shown what he can do in the past, guys on center and in the forwards as well?
I mean, that was the weird thing. We didn't have one backline injury in 6 games. It was freakish, and also we have in our backs. So I'm saying we've got no Springboks. So other than Damien, but he was regarded the Springboks in various tiers. Starting Bok, bench Bok, a squad member, and he joined that squad late, so he wasn't under any form of resting protocol. He wasn't overplayed in the World Cup or anything. So we sort of kept going. So we didn't create enough opportunities. There's no question the guys who I'll be looking to create opportunities for are both, as you say, Edwill definitely overdue. Zas as well. He's going really well in the thing, and I think he's a future. I don't know what Ciabello's plans are long term, but we know that Dylan's going to Harlequins at some stage. So Zas and Edwill have to be created opportunities. The guy, Rickus, is at 220 minutes, not fair really chasing a game. So he's another guy, but the guy has been sensational playing for Western Province and looks, and they've only played SVD and Boyland a couple of times in a club team. Is Dan du Plessis. He's now got 4 games under the belt. And we all know Dan, if he stays fit, that's a Springbok. No question. One of the best centers in the country. So I have to give him an opportunity. In the forwards, it's happened itself. There's a loose head called Leon Lyons. People gave us a hard time about those last 2 scrums. Poor Quenzo, we put him on when Stephen tore his pec. They kept their starting front row, and I felt a bit for Quenzo because Leon Lyons was unavailable, Ali Mark was unavailable. So for the number 4 loose head to be thrown into that was tough. But he's a guy with a big future. But Leon Lyons is a loose head you guys are going to enjoy. Ali will be back. Then Yaku and Choki, JD. I think Salman, if you look at his stats, has been absolutely, only with respect to and even more analysis in the last week, seen how Salman is playing. He's actually that is really exciting. So, and then there's a guy called David Miazen as well, who's a young lock who's been playing with varsity. 2.08, 124 kilos. So I think probably as regards the forwards, we could take 5 World Cup Springboks out and still, I'd still back us in any battle, even without those guys in the pack. But I do need to create more opportunities in the backs. The forwards are sort of creating opportunities themselves.
But you mentioned
12 or 13.
Sorry?
So Dan du Plessis, is he, in your view, an inside or an outside centre?
I always viewed him as inside. I spoke to him about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he's also happy at 13. He can do both. His history, his injury record is so poor. You get nervous every time watching him. You don't want to watch him live. You just want to watch it afterwards because you're so scared. But yes, there's physical, skilled passing. That's a very, very special player. probably at this stage, look at him at 13 because, you know, Ruan's played every game and we also need to bring Rickers through, but he can do both.
Davo, you mentioned Dylan just now and going to Harlequins, and obviously Wilco's supposed to be going off at the end of the season as well. Is it business as usual when it comes to contracting and that now, or has there been a message maybe from the overseas clubs like, hang on a minute, we've got to take time out because, you know, we've all got those little sort of little clauses in our contracts, the act of God, force majeure, whatever. I mean, is everything sort of proceeding or is that changing? I mean, are those guys still going to go?
I mean, you know, I asked Dylan and Wilco have they heard anything, and they said no. I don't see how it can be business as usual in the contracting world. I think what we being Western Province and how we work, we're generally focusing on retention. But I think, you know, anybody who trades, I'm saying anybody across any club around the world, anybody who trades now without revenue it's questionable practice. It's questionable corporate practice, whether it's regular. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty for those guys. We haven't had anything, any official complaint yet. I'd also say that, you know, in South Africa itself, we're meant to respect up until the end of June that we don't speak to each other's players. And I think this year it should be enforced much more vigorously because give each union a chance. You know, if one union's got deeper pockets or something, so it would be wrong. I think we should allow us to get on top of our heads around this, our own business models, and give an opportunity to keep our players. You know what I mean? I think if somebody came and feasted on somebody else in this, it would be tricky. So I hope that gets enforced pretty much, pretty vigorously. Yeah.
All right, guys, are we done? It's half an hour. That's a pretty good session. Any other questions?
Mike, just from my side, that one of the things I forgot to mention about our program was we've got to really, with the Stormers have to, and we are a high-profile brand, and we have to make a contribution to the greater good in this time. You know, that was part of the project. So there were the guys have got their conditioning, they got their technical, they got their skills, technical being the analysis, and they obviously got their own fun and vibe. The other thing was the contribution to the good. So it's a really big social welfare project that we're partnering with a big partner that will be announced in the next day or two, which will be nationwide, which will impress, which would be brilliant. I think there's a responsibility on our players to be seen to support, you know, what's going on at a national level and help humanitarily. So I'm quite excited about that. And there's another project we've got with G, which is going to be really big, which we did pre-lockdown. So if you see guys standing close to each other, was done pre-lockdown. But it's also going to lift the national mood. And I think that those are sort of two projects we're sort of wrapping up at the moment. Cool.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Okay. Cheers.